Hello everyone. Well, we're going to do a impromptu visit through the fish room in all its messy glory. The fish room, some of you know, is actually just the side of a long kitchen in this mid-century modern home, which my family has, well, if not begrudgingly, but over time conceded to me. And this is my little space back here. It's actually worked out pretty damn fine for me, if I do say so myself. So thanks to my family. Shout out to my wife for indulging me in this hobby. So this is not where all my aquariums are, but it's where the majority of them are. And they're all Nano Tanks because we're dealing with a small space, among other reasons. Plus, when you start with one small one on the desktop, then you get another and another, and before you know it, you got a bunch of small tanks instead of one big one. That's what happened to me. So we're going to take a look at some of these, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one as it comes to mind, because there's a few issues in all of them, including these damn reflections. So in this lovely Nano Tank, I've got a breeder box set up just in case I get some action with the fish in here. Which is a school of cherry barbs. Look at how fat that female is. There's two of them, gigantic, full of eggs, but no spawning activity. What's wrong with you males? My theory is not that the tank is inhospitable to them, but that the water temperature, because of it being summer in August, it's just a little warm for that sort of activity. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it because they're otherwise healthy, fat, and happy, and I've got males and females, but if anything, they look overweight, and maybe I ought to adjust the feeding regimen, but I'd love to have some spawning activity. If I'm not seeing it in there, I'm certainly not going to put a male and female in here, which I've seen people do, but generally you wait for a male and a female to be going at it before you do that. And while the males are obviously more red than the females, they're not that red, so they're not all up and into their spawning behavior. I'm just not feeling it from this tank. Behind it you can see the Brine shrimp hatchery that I have going almost 24/7. And I feed all of my fish. These nano fish love baby brine shrimps, so they're not too big for that. And lots of fish, even bigger ones, enjoy it as well. Now down here in this Fluval Edge aquarium, I think it's the 7-gallon. It is the 7-gallon. It might be not quite 7 or just over 6.7 or 7.2, something like that. I have some lamb chop rasboras, again, forgive the reflection, and then a shit ton of Monte Carlo. And this carpet continues to grow, and I continue to trim it down. What a wonderful specimen plant. This is actually a beautiful planted tank, especially if I give it a haircut, and the fish are generally a little bit more active and out in front than that. But for whatever reason, again, maybe it's water temperature that's just a few degrees warmer than I would like. I've got the top off of it here, so with all tanks you can generally get a degree or two cooler if you remove the lids and let some evaporation as well as a break from the heat and the insulation. So this Nano Tank, God, this is a fail with this damn reflection. Extremely planted tank, which has ember tetras. You see some in the back, and then Phoenix rasbora as well. A beautiful planted tank. I'm not expecting spawning behavior, although I know I have super fat female embers in here, and I'm sure they do their business from time to time, but there's plenty of shrimp in there and other things that would predate on them. Here I have just a vase tank that might have a few shrimp and snails in it, but what's cool about this is it's just basically like having a house plant. So the spider plant rootstock goes right down into it on a piece of driftwood, and then I have a Nubius petite surrounding it, and I have it sitting on top of a piece of arroyo stone just to raise the height a little bit. I have no fish in there or plans to do so. Obviously, it's pretty small, even though I'm guilty of putting fish in small tanks. This was a hasty sort of celestial pearl nano breeding tank, and they're in there. You can see them down there, and it's a happy setup for them. But again, no spawning activity that I can see, that I can plainly see, although I have males and females. And I'm thinking, as with these other tanks that I've already taken you through with the species only, all of them egg scattering fish, including the CPD or celestial pearl danio, when the temperature gets cooler in the fall, I could get some action going in here. This is a vase. It has a sponge filter in it, but I don't keep any fish. There's a number of cherry shrimp in here. What I do is take out guppy grass strands as they get too thick in here. They grow really green and lush in here, and I will take pieces out to put in my other tanks, because in some of these other tanks where I use guppy grass, it can get a little brown and stringy, whereas in this vase, which I'm sure is because of the ambient light, is always lush and green. And so in a sense, it's a grow out for guppy grass, which I love to use in a number of my tanks. It's an easy growing plant and good for cover for fry, and fish like to swim in and about it as well. So I'm going to do a snap zoom around here. I actually got a bigger vase from the Container Store for this tank here that has a group of least killifish inside of it. There you see the least killifish. They look like teeny largemouth bass or smallmouth bass. They are the smallest live-bearing fish in North America, at least according to most sources. And I have a breeding group in here breeding a lot, which is why I increased the vase to a 3-gallon jar from what might have only been a 1-gallon jar. And then Pothos, a little spider plant, and then another kind of house plant, all working the back along with my ubiquitous lucky palm. Now when I transplanted all of these, they got a little bit sad. You see the yellowing leaves there, but this has happened to me over and over again. They will grow back and get more robust as time goes by. I know that for a fact. But so while my family probably didn't even notice, this is a vase that's twice as big as the one that was there before. Here is the intense jungle menagerie with endlers, beaucoup endlers. You can see just a shit ton of males and females and their progeny. It's almost completely overrun by pothos and spider plant roots, and that has grown down and out and up the back. And I've highlighted this before. I mean, look at that thing. I've already cut that stalk down when it was up to there, but you can see this new shoot growing. All the nutrients, not including from light, come from this little 5-gallon tank. So I'm doing a lot of water changes, and I'll add a little bit of iron and Fluval fertilizer in there for the plants for sure, and those roots will just eat it up. But mostly they're sucking nutrients from this mega swarm of guppies and their poop, and that's why I can keep so many in here, and the water is so clear because of all these plants, to say nothing of this great group of frogbit at top. These are the larger leaf kind, and sometimes in tanks it doesn't matter how big the tank is. Sometimes in big tanks you'll get the smaller variety like that, and in small tanks you'll get the larger. It's hard to predict and hard to know when you're adding just how big the leaves will get. Over here is my largest nano tank. It's the Fluval F90 that comes on the, or maybe it's F60, I forget. It's the F series, which comes with this beautiful cabinet, very nicely made. Somewhat expensive, but you're getting a good canister filter and lots of high-end equipment with it. In here, this is just all kinds of different tetras. You see some this is a very old gold neon. You see how sad he looks, but when I tried to catch him out to euthanize him, he was frisky, so he'll live to see another day. And there's just a ton of different kinds of tetras in here, as well as any number of Corydoras and other scavenger fish. And you see reasonably healthy plant growth at the bottom. Those crypts have done better in the past. Over time they started to fade, but the ubiquitous Java fern is doing great, which is the big massive clump you see dominating this tank. I also throw in a few male endlers from time to time, and look at how beautiful they're happy in there. I spread those fish out all over my aquariums as ditherfish. They tend to get along with everything. I just don't add females for obvious reasons. I don't want that happening in all my tanks. Moving to the desk, the 3 desktop tanks. All right, so this beautiful little ADA cube has a couple killifish and some, or I should say clown killifish and some ruby tetras, which are in the back right now. But mostly I want to show off that excellent Anubias petite, another one of my power balls. It's like the size of almost a basketball of Anubias petite. That's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of that plant. I put a little piece down in here in the smaller cube, which is where I've had success with the clown killifish. You see a couple in there. There's a male and a female. I've had a great spawn with this setup using Java fern as a kind of bed surrounded by it's Java moss, excuse me, surrounded by dragon stone. And it created a bed for their spawning. It worked for me in the past. I have a small sponge filter in the back there, weighed down by some dragon stone, and that's essentially it, other than that piece of Anubias petite that I just clipped from here, or I clipped it from here. This other excellent Lush and Plush planted tank. I've recently featured this tank not too long ago, so you can look up that video. It too has a intense planting of Anubias petite and about a dozen rocket or clown killifish, which may or may not be spawning. All of them progeny from the pair that I had in here. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that tour of my fish tank. And as always, keep your hands in the tank. Ciao for now.